I mean, if you're a Bears fan, you're thinking forward progress. Come on.
10, 219, 219.
Forward Progress, a Chicago Bears podcast with Dan Bernstein and Matt Abaticola on 312 Sports.
Bears finish the season 11-6 as they fall to the Lions in typically exciting fashion. 19-16 is the final, and now we will watch closely the remaining 63 seconds of the Commanders and the Eagles. At the moment, the Commanders are leading 24-17. So as soon as we have the final there, obviously we'll let you know. We're going to know a whole lot more about what's going on and what happens next. Let me say this first. Thanks, Bears, for an immensely entertaining regular season. That in my memory, I don't know where it's, let me just say, I'm not sure where this is all going to end. I don't know if they're going to be one and done. I don't know if they're going to win the Super Bowl. What I do know is no matter what happens right now, and even with a loss at home in the final game, I am going to remember this as one of the most interesting, entertaining Bears regular seasons that we've had. This has been a whole hell of a lot of fun in a lot of ways. And I want to enjoy that. I want to appreciate that before we get started with, oh my God, what's next? What's going on with the defense? Yeah, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of concerns, but they get to reset everything here. They get to start anew and maybe come up with some answers, maybe see what their defense can and can't do. But this has been a terrific time up to this point.
Yeah, I hope that the coaching staff was able to learn something about their defense today. You asked what they can and can't do. I could tell you a few things of what they can and what they can't do.
Please do.
But no, and we'll get into it. And it has been a very exciting season. It just, win or lose for this game, the Bears were in the playoffs, so the anxiety level or the anger in watching this game wasn't at as high as it has been throughout the course of the season. It was just very disappointing. I think I'm more disappointed with this loss than anything, because the lack of effort at times that I saw from some players and just how flat they were for three quarters was really disappointing. I mean, this was a game that Ben Johnson talked about, the Bears coming out and being very sharp and being ready to play at home. This game did still have meaning for them. I know they could, backdoor into the 2 seed with a loss by the Eagles, but you wanted to see the Bears come out and win this game at home in front of the home crowd, getting ready for the playoffs. You don't want to go into the playoffs with a 2-game losing streak. And just the lack of energy, the lack of effort at times, and just no rhythm whatsoever for three quarters was very disappointing to see. They couldn't run the ball very well. Some of the play calling in the first half was questionable. There was a lot of opportunities for the Bears to make some throws because there were, 7 and 8 guys in the box at times. And then obviously, if you have 8, a guy peels out, but they're showing different things, playing a lot of zone, and the Bears couldn't take advantage of it. And when we saw last week, Dan, in the Niners game, and I talked about this, we talked about it in the postgame show and during the week, that the Niners put out there a really great blueprint of just going after and attacking the middle of the field. And the Lions are the absolute best in the game right now at running those crossing routes. We're setting up a screen. No contact is needed. Nothing's illegal even in question, but they run those crossing routes with screens to perfection, which is why they lead the league in yards after catch.
I think when I want to also be clear, it's not a screen pass. It's a pick. What you're talking about is having someone in someone's way, putting an obstacle there.
No, I know exactly what I'm saying, because it's not a pick because there is no contact. That's why it's a screen.
Right.
And
right.
So you're looking at a pick is contact. A pick has contact. A screen is an obstacle in your way that slows your steps down, which they had multiple times across the field. Yep. So they are two different things.
They're brilliant. Yeah, I just want to make sure we're not talking about a screen pass.
Great at it.
They space it well, and they sell it well, and they make sure it's not a penalty because it's such an important part of what they do. I thought the Bears were getting out coached most of the game, until late, until they tried that Montgomery option pass where our guy Andrew Billings ended up getting a sack on that play. I have no idea why they did that. I don't understand it, but they let him back into it. Remarkable that the Bears even found their footing. And I keep going back in my mind to the drop by Luther Burden when the Bears got it on their own 26.
After the interception?
That very first play after the interception,
Yep.
where it was off of Burden's hands because I thought he got a little excited with the opportunity to catch it on the dead run. Because that screwed. Next, you had the intentional grounding,
Yep.
and it was kind of over at that point. But that drop, God.
Yeah,
It
no,
was
it was a bullet. I mean, he still should have had it. It went right through his
catch it.
hands, but it was an absolute bullet.
It was.
And it was a game. Now, not only was it disappointing from the effort standpoint at times, and the fact of there was a lack of rhythm offensively through 3 quarters, the number of drops too. I think that was at least 5 drops in that game that were just unacceptable. I mean, this was not a game where, despite Caleb not really being in rhythm because the offense wasn't in rhythm, this wasn't like a Caleb looked bad game. This was the offense looked terrible, the play calling was questionable, and then you can't have 4 or 5 drops in this game. You can't. That being one of them, which was just very disappointing because that killed it with that second down intentional grounding, 3rd and 20. Monangai gets a pass and he gets 15 yards, but you got to punt there at that point. You're too deep into your territory, and I said there's just too much time. That's way too much time for the Lions to just need a field goal.
I had consecutive drops written down for Ja'Day Walker and then by DeAndre Swift going toward the sideline, and that was when the Bears had the ball back on their own 30, and they were still down 16-0 at that point in the third quarter. But I agree with you on that. I also keep getting back to the lack of effectiveness and impact of their front four. No matter what was tried, no matter whether or not there were extra blitzers, they tried a couple tackle end twists, one that was successful, one very much not. Going man on these third downs and allowing them to run the exact plays that you're describing there, where you bring a guy through traffic. Oftentimes it was C.J. Gardner-Johnson trying to give chase, and too often it was Jalen Johnson who just continues to look like he's not quite back yet.
You know,
when Jalen Johnson is being attacked, there's a problem.
Yeah, and I thought there was a couple plays, though, where he seemed more active and more physical. I just don't think he's completely back yet. And it seems like right now he is more of a liability than he is an asset on the field. And I know that, you know, with their depth chart and where they're at and where his status is, it's not like you can't play him, but he certainly isn't anywhere where he needs to be at a high level of play right now, which is too bad.
The Commanders have defeated the Eagles 24-17, which means the Bears are going to be the 2 seed. They are going to take on the Green Bay Packers at Soldier Field. Time TBA.
Yeah, a couple of guys I want to point out too before I forget on things, but you know, we talked about the lack of pressure from the front four. And something we discussed earlier in the week, and I talked about using some stunts and getting Montez Sweat moving inside with maybe Dexter or Jarrett going outside. And that was the play where they had an actual sack from Gervon Dexter. Also want to point out the play that I thought Grady Jarrett was a little more active. He's getting up and down the field better, not only just sideline to sideline, but coming back on plays. So hopefully he's getting completely healthy right in time for the playoffs, which would be nice. And then one other guy is Jaquan Brisker, who I thought had a nice game, made 2 important plays. The first one was on that David Montgomery pass to Jared Goff. He read it immediately, stayed with Jared Goff the entire time downfield. So great recognition there and good preparation to understand that. And then, of course, he had the tip on the Kevin Byard interception, which I just, you know, these guys just keep getting in opportunities. And, you know, Kevin Byard now with his, 7th or 8th interception
7th.
And not a Pro Bowl player. It's just mind-boggling to me on a team that won their division, and he leads the league in interceptions. But Jaquan Brisker had a nice game, made 2 really important plays. Oh, and the last thing, the most significant, most important, most unbelievable 2-point conversion you'll ever see is Cole Kmet. He's blocking that play, he falls down, he whiffs on Hutchinson, but still recognizes that Caleb's scrambling, so he gets up, not in a route, just runs out and gets in the end zone and then gets absolutely annihilated and holds onto the ball.
It was a fingertip catch on which he got absolutely creased by that tackler. Just unbelievable. And I also want the record to show that when you gave that name just now to the Detroit quarterback, our official medical expert of the show, Dr. Steve Brule, also a fan of Jared Groff. Yes.
He came in on a broat.
So Colston Loveland had a game of 13 targets, 10 catches, just 91 yards.
Yep.
But he did have the touchdown, and what he's certainly done is take up a lot of Green Bay's practice time for next week. I would think that Jeff Hafley now, whether Roma Dunze comes back as we expect or not, that the concentration for them is going to be take away the guy who's developed now into Caleb Williams' security blanket, because whatever they've got going is something clearly pretty special. He was terrific in this game. He led the Bears in receiving with those 10 catches and 91 yards. Williams finished 20 of 33. His 212 yards blew past the 109 that he needed to top Eric Kramer for the all-time franchise record for passing yards in a season. Not enough for the 270 to get to that 4,000 mark, but the new 17-game season record for the Chicago Bears belongs to Caleb Williams, as he sort of woke up from the same doldrums that seemed to be affecting everyone until they were down 16-0. And we were all thinking of different leads for this game. I was getting ready to say that there are certainly better times to have a burn the tape game than in your last game of the season heading into the playoffs. And this was looking like that until it simply didn't. So I don't know exactly. I don't want to make too much of a single outcome. I don't want to make too much out of what happened there, because I don't necessarily think that it's going to have a bearing on what happens next week, other than seeing what not to do on third down. If you're not going to generate a pass rush, you're going to have to play zone.
Well, Dan,
show zone.
It absolutely has no bearing on next week. I mean, we've seen this in this season for the NFL from week to week. Teams show up differently each and every week. The Bears have been a little more consistent, and that's why they were able to get ahead and win their division. And I think that just looking at the nature of this game, and I'll put it away. I'll put it away tomorrow, and I'll be done with it. But I think the overwhelming feeling is just disappointment. Disappointment that they came out that flat and played that flat for as long as they did. I get it. You might have a drive, and your opening drive, your first two drives, you might be super amped up, and you got to settle down a little bit. For the Bears, it seems to be the opposite, especially with Caleb. It's not about settling down and getting level and getting into your groove. It's about rising up to the occasion to look alive, to be warmed up, to be ready to go. I just didn't get it. Even Ben Johnson said at halftime that he was just disappointed. That's about all he could say about it, is disappointed with the way they were playing the game. And I wanted to point out before I forget, because you made it very clear that the new 17-game record for the Bears was set by Caleb today. Did you happen to catch before the game, Fox, the panel, the studio show with Michael Strahan when they talked about Myles Garrett breaking the sack record? Did you see the very first thing he said?
I did not. I came in near the end of that.
So
when
Michael,
he and Howie Long were talking.
Yeah, they said it to Strahan. They're like, "What do you think, Michael?" And he was like, "Well, he set the record for 17 games, and I did it in 16 games."
That's right.
He is right. But like the anger and the bitterness of it, dude, just say, "Hey, congratulations," and then you go on to point it out. But to not even congratulate the guy it stood out to me.
Here's the problem.
I thought of it again when you just mentioned that.
Yeah, the problem with what he said was the tape shows that Al Bubba Baker had the record at 23 before this. That the former Lion, Al Baker, had 23. It just was not an official stat. So if somebody wanted to respond to Michael Strahan in that regard, that Bubba Baker, it may have been the year, I believe, that he compiled, 4 or 5 of those against Dan Jiggets and the Bears in one game. I think that might have been the same season. But once, if you wanted to, and I believe, I think Doug Buffone said that he had 20 something one year before they counted.
He did. Doug has said that a few different times. Yeah,
and not to mention, you don't want to get Deacon Jones talking about that either.
Right.
As we did. He was sitting with us at a Super Bowl talking about it. He thought he had 30 or something like that. And I know that there's going to be all kinds of these discussions. But if the Bears play like they did for too much of that game, this season's going to come to an end very, very quickly.
Yeah, it is.
And this will all be perhaps for not for whatever it was. And we'll remember the hot dogs and the shirt off and the cheese graters and good, better, best. But if they play like that, they don't have a chance. And if they can't find a way to bother the opposing quarterback without sacrificing the quality of their coverage, they're in real trouble. And that's what we have looked at for weeks now. Those four guys, and even against the run, what those four guys are not doing to disengage blocks. You've got to have more of an impediment before the linebacker level. You have to have more penetration on passes. You can't wave a wand and magically make those four guys with their hands on the ground better. But there's got to be something. There's no help is coming walking through that door. And I wish I had an easy answer for how to do it.
Well, the easy answer is there isn't anything they can do, and this is what it's going to look like moving forward for the duration of this season, whether it's one more game or they're able to get a win at home against Green Bay in their third time playing them this season. Nothing's going to be different. There isn't anything else they can do. There isn't a guy on the roster they haven't played yet they can move up and put in that position. The only other thing you can do, and we've talked about this, because you can't blitz more. You can't expose an already deficient backfield defensively. To have a guy like Jared Goff or a guy like Jordan Love being able to pick you apart with open reads. The only thing you can do is rearrange guys. And it may just be rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. That might all it be, but there's no other option. So they're not going to do anything different than they're going to leave it as it is with their rotation and just say, hey, guys are going to have to step up. They'll give us the cliched football answers. It's time to step up. Guys will have to step up and make plays. Well, you haven't done it through 17 games. I don't see it happening just because it's the playoffs.
It's going to be Packers at Bears, Rams at Panthers, Niners at Eagles. In the AFC, Chargers at Patriots, Bills at Jaguars, and the Texans will visit either the Ravens or the Steelers, depending on the outcome of the game that is kicking off in just about an hour from now.
Correct.
Welp, this is let me just say this. I would rather play the Packers than the Niners right now. I would rather play the Packers than the Niners right now. This is my preferred outcome. And you're not sure.
You know, I hate the Packers so much. I'm not ready emotionally for another Packers game in this season.
Can you do another Packers week starting now? Certainly starting tomorrow on Dan Bernstein Unfiltered and Forward Progress. It is Packers week number 3.
Yeah, it is. Again, I'm still not over just all the pain and the misery that the Packers have delivered to the Bears. I know it's different, and I know with Caleb now, they're 2-2. He's 2-2 against the Packers. I get all that, and they actually went 2-1 last calendar year in 2025 against the Packers. You know, it's just I hate them so much. I absolutely hate the Packers with such a strong passion. But yeah, you know, I'll get over it. I'll wrap this game up tomorrow, and we'll look ahead to the Packers. And I know the Bears are going to win because they're going to the Super Bowl and they're going to win the whole thing. That's what my play on my bookie says. So
good. I'm glad it says that. And obviously my early bet that I made, I think I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 33-1 or something. I put that down to win the Super Bowl. Right. They are not going to have a chance to win the Super Bowl thanks to the confluence of outcomes today. A couple of notes that I have as we get into some of this stuff. Tom Brady did say piss missile to describe one of those throws.
He did say piss missile, yes.
And apparently it's the second time he's done it. So if he had received any admonishment the first time, it didn't stick because he did call a pass on national television in America's Game of the Week. He did refer to it as a piss missile. So apparently that is allowed.
Yeah, and at the end, and there's a comment here that said that game meant dick. And at the end of the day, without knowing the outcome of the Eagles game, yes, really at the end of the day, this game ended up being meaningless. With the Eagles losing, the Bears were able to backdoor into the 2 seed. I just would have preferred them to show up more. Now, even with a loss, the Lions aren't a terrible team. They're not a terrible team. They're a very good team.
They outplayed the Bears this year without question. The Bears may have taken the North. The Bears may have won the North, but the Lions were better than the Bears this year every time that they had a chance.
All you have to do is look
at
those 2 games, and the Bears finished 2-4 in their division, and that's not normal for a team to win your division to go 2-4. And it's not acceptable moving forward. They cannot go 2-4.
It hasn't happened in 15 years for any team to win a division with a losing divisional record.
Well, it's also the first time a team made the playoffs by allowing 42 points or more in 3 games in a season, which the Bears have done this year. So a lot of firsts, a lot of historical firsts for this team and Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson right now. So yeah, did I want them to win? Of course, I wanted them to win, but I wanted them. It was important for me as a fan that they show up today and play hard and look good at home going into the playoffs. You don't want to have that. So you walk into the playoffs on 2 losses where you just got your defense got destroyed by the 49ers. And then you come home and you don't put anything together offensively. You're a top 5 offensive team this year, and you put nothing together until the 4th quarter when it seems like the team finally woke up and started playing. Now the Bears and the Packers are walking into the playoffs together on a 5-game losing streak, which doesn't really speak a whole lot of good stuff about the NFC North when both your representatives are walking in on a 5-game losing streak.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson is in the concussion protocol after that hit late. He clearly got up wobbly, and it was certainly easy to see. The quote from Ben Johnson is what he told their post-game show. He said they'll turn the page pretty quick because the new season is starting. So obviously we have the Bears lead on that is close it up. Don't worry about it. They are beginning what they are referring to as a new season. And it's absolutely true, but you don't get a new season to bring in new players. You don't get to change around anything that you're doing up front. While we're talking about that front 4, let me give you a couple other notes. That one was something I saw before the game. One is an observation that I saw during the game that I'd like your thoughts on. The first is that going into the game, the Bears had the lowest expected points added per play, the worst in the league, the worst defensive EPA per defensive play when turnovers and plays on which they caused turnovers were taken out. If you subtract the fumbles and the interceptions, the Bears had the NFL's worst performance per play on defense. 30th of 30. There are 30 teams, right? I think that's right. So that was a telling stat.
In the 32.
Oh, there's 32. So were they 32? They now I got to look at it. Whether it's just remind myself whether they're 30th or 32nd. Either way, it was one way of stripping out the turnovers just to show how bad they had been. The other note, in the first half, I thought I saw the Lions catch the Bears twice with a quick snap right before Andrew Billings, or as he was shouting his move call.
Oh no, dude, 100%. Because it happened more than twice, actually.
It happened, and they stopped doing it. So there was a plan by Ben Johnson to take advantage, to time up that defensive line shift. Whatever they had been doing and trying to use it to upset timing, it had been a weapon where Billings yells, "Move."
You mean Campbell? Campbell had an idea to take advantage of it.
Yeah, excuse me. Yes. Campbell had an idea to recognize when that was happening and catch them off guard, catch them moving sideways. And it worked. and it looked as if the Bears decided to call off some of that pre-snap defensive line movement. I don't know if this is something the Packers are going to try to key on, if it's something that they're going to get back into doing, but that was the first time, maybe it's happened, but it was the first time I had noticed that they were trying to exploit that move call by the Bears.
I'm not going to say for sure that that I've watched every game over and saw that, but I don't remember it happening before. And it happened more than twice where they took advantage of quick snaps while the Bears were in movement to catch them. So no, good catch on your part, because it certainly did happen. And I think our guy Billings was disappointed to not get any kind of credit in the Niners game, his name to be called out at all, which is why he had those 2 penalties. Now, the second one, though, I'm going to tell you, that ball was moving. The center was moving that ball laterally before he snapped it. And you're not allowed to move that ball in any fashion that he did. And so that second one, I'm not going to hold against him as badly as the first one. The first one was just ridiculous, although he got a really good shot in on the center.
And there's a possibility, and this goes back to sort of the out-coaching aspect. You had David Montgomery not getting out of bounds late, staying inbounds instead, or excuse me, getting out of bounds when he should have stayed in bounds. The Marion Barber. But
oh yeah, for sure.
Tom Brady pointed out that it's possible that the second encroachment was on purpose. That if you think the opposing team is likely to get the first down, that you're better off just giving it to them and stopping the clock.
He didn't say that he thinks that that's what Billing was doing, but he said in the end it really wasn't that bad of a penalty to have. But I don't think it was deliberate. Do you think it was deliberate?
I don't know. He said they might have a call for that. You know, he added to that point. I don't know. I think it's. Yeah. I don't know if the playoff media availabilities are any different. Do we have to wait until Thursday to talk to Dennis Allen? Who's I'd much rather talk to him maybe than Ben Johnson about some of this stuff. You know, my questions really are that's what we're going to focus on. Is the defensive line going to allow the Bears to have a chance to beat the Packers next week? That's my question. Are they going to give the offense a fair shot? Because if they play like this, they're not going to have a chance. This defense has been getting worse. And what did we say?
It certainly has been.
900
yards.
Jared
Goff gave up 300 yards. He was over 300 today, too.
He had 311, and they rushed for 122. That's 433 total yards that the Bears surrendered today.
And so that's over 1,300 yards in the last 3 games.
Yep, they were at 880, I believe.
Yeah. So it's
that's the direction they're going in, and it's not good.
You know, what really stands out to me is the drive you mentioned, and it was the Bears' 8th drive after the interception, where they have the first down miss by Burden, the second down grounding, and then 3rd and 20. They get 15, and then they
15
punt.
to Monungai. Yep.
That was such a disappointing drive. You know, even of all the bad drives they had in the first three quarters where they just looked lifeless and didn't care to play football, that was so disappointing. Like, how are you not so pumped up and so ready to go after that interception deep in your territory, and you come out like that? You come out with a miss on first down and then pressure and just a throwaway and second down to get a 10-yard penalty and a loss of downs. I don't understand it. That was so disappointing. And I really wanted Montez Sweat to show up today. You know, I was really hoping this would be a game where Montez Sweat shows up. You're playing a division rival. You're at home. The number 2 seed in the NFC is on the line. You're the top paid defensive guy. You're the guy that's there to get to the quarterback. I was really hoping he would show up and have a game.
He and Grady Jarrett split a sack in the first quarter.
Correct.
But that was it.
Yeah, that was it. He did have one nice play where there was an outlet, I want to say, to Montgomery, and he hesitated, and then he got real tall, and his getting tall forced Jared Goff to throw the ball a little high and out of the reach of Montgomery. So he made 2 plays, but certainly not enough pressure on Jared Goff, a guy who doesn't run at all, who doesn't leave the pocket. But, you know, if you're not getting to him quickly, which the Bears don't have the ability to get to a quarterback quick, he's just going to kill you in the middle with those slants and those crossing routes. He's just going to kill you all game long. And we saw that with nothing but Jalen Johnson and CJ trailing from behind. Again, not angry about it. It's a loss. They're still the 2 seed. The season starts fresh. Everyone's at 0-0. You get a home game to start, which is great. You're not going on the road. You get a team that you know well, a team that you're going to be amped up for and pumped up for. Great, good to go. Just disappointed that they didn't show up more for this game.
Well, the other piece of good news is that they only left with the one injury that we know, being the aforementioned concussion suffered by C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So that was my other worry.
Yeah, maybe Gordon's back next week. I doubt it.
Yes,
I doubt it, but who knows? And I would like Roma Dunze to stop jumping up and down on the sidelines. I know you're excited, but just keep your feet on the ground. Stop jumping for me.
Can I ask you a weird question?
Unless he's like on a trampoline and it's really cushy.
Did you see when the Bears were hoping to get the eventual intentional grounding that they got called, that there was a bear that was jumping and signaling intentional grounding, and he turned around. I think his name was Kalanick or Kalenic. Who was that?
On the Bears?
Yes. He was smiling. He was jumping. And I had no idea who he was. I thought it was some like made up dude or a guy that like won a charity auction to stand there and look like a bear. Did you have any idea who that was?
Before the game?
Yeah. Like, wait, what? Who are you? What do you do? Yeah, he was on the roster. Here it is. Nikola Kalinic was in uniform. Had you ever heard of him?
No, I think.
Had you ever heard of Nikola Kalinic?
You're making that up.
I'm not. He's 6'4", 245 pounds. He wears number 86 for the Bears. And they showed him very excitedly signaling for intentional grounding. He was in uniform.
All right, some listeners have said Russian exchange student. Others have said practice squad call-up.
Okay, that's my bet is the latter rather than the former.
Favor for Putin. Somebody says, can he play defense?
I didn't know who he was. I thought
Can he rush the passer? This is good.
I thought I did a pretty good job keeping up on the people who, who are on the Chicago Bears. I didn't think here in week 60, maybe that he had to be active to get a contract clause, an escalator in there or something to kick in for him. But hello, I guess, Nikola Kalinic.
Oh, we got a Stranger Things fan. He says he's from the Upside Down. You didn't watch Stranger Things at all, have you?
No, I have not.
Yeah, very, very good. It just wrapped up the finale over the holiday. It was really good. I've never heard of that guy before. Never heard of him.
I
never heard of him.
Either.
Never seen him before. So I missed.
He's
him.
very good at signaling for intentional grounding. So
maybe he was a ref and they just didn't have an extra ref uniform, and the Bears loaned him a
full pads
jersey. Okay,
but he's there. He's a Chicago Bear, and actually, pretty good job, I thought, for the most part, with Ozzie Trapillo out and Theo Benedict starting on the left side, to not hear the names of a lot of offensive linemen. I don't, and they kept the penalties pretty few and far between today, which was actually relatively impressive, especially going up against some of the guys that they've got. I mean, overall, the Bears did not beat themselves.
No, and I think there was one play maybe where, and this is great if you can accomplish this, where Aiden Hutchinson really beat Darnell Wright really bad. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's one of the best pass rushers in the game. So to do that one time is pretty good throughout the course of a game. Yeah,
they had him lined up in either a 9 or an 8 technique. Well out on that side.
Well, then he moved. He was moving in the middle too, in a 2-point stance. So lots of different opportunities with that guy.
Bears only allowed that one sack, and they only had 4 penalties for 25 yards.
Yeah, 2 of those were on Big Bill.
Yeah, and the first one, I actually, since I noticed that when I looked back when you were talking about that first penalty, that it was right before that, there was the other play that I gave Montez Sweat some credit there also, because he and Jalen Johnson combined for a stop on 3rd and 1 that set up that 4th and 1 where he was guilty of encroachment. And then, of course, they get Amon-Ra St. Brown lined up once again against C.J. Gardner-Johnson in one of those one-on-one crossing routes where he's just able to move through stuff and beat a guy. That's got to stop.
I was wondering how Cole Kmet wasn't concussed on that hit, that 2-point conversion, man. I was surprised he got up. I thought for sure he was going to be seeing stars and going off the field there, but hell of a play.
I don't know if there
on his
was
part,
head
man.
contact. It looked like he caught him flush.
No,
I
he
didn't
got him.
know-
It was shoulder pad into like upper back area, right, maybe near the neck. But the way his head snapped back, that's concussion inducing. I was really surprised, but hell of a play to whiff on the block and then get up and use your feet and get yourself available as a target to your quarterback. So nice job there from Cole.
Colston Loveland with that game finished as the Bears' leader in receiving yards this year.
Did he really?
He did. And we were showing how bunched up everybody was at one point. But when he ends up with 713 yards, the 2025 Bears leader in receiving yards, after all the debate about his health and whether or not he or Tyler Warren was the right pick for the Bears tight end, hell of a year for him. And got better with every game. Really good.
What was I mean, I just had a thought that
I know you're
zapped from my brain.
No, you're trying to follow all of the comments.
I know. I need to stop. I need to stop reading these.
The Bears with 16 points in the fourth quarter. They ended up with the fourth quarter being their highest scoring of the four. 148 fourth quarter points this year. Ben Johnson telling the media that he was not pleased with the offense today. So I'm not surprised because it didn't really didn't arrive until the fourth quarter. And they were asking a lot of guys on a lot of plays. It also was interesting to me that Caleb Williams just didn't seem to be particularly active. Like they weren't relying on his escapability. They weren't getting him on the move. They didn't do any. Did I see a single boot? Did you see anything off waggle or boot or any of the successful sort of half field stuff? Maybe I think there was one on which they had both tight ends moving, but it didn't seem to be a staple of what they were doing.
It was a third down, maybe a third down play.
It was a completion to Loveland where they also had Kmet going that direction, correct?
No, it was a completion to Kmet. It was a 3rd and 10 play in their 7th drive. Kmet gets the first down. Oh yeah, right here in my notes. And then in big letters I wrote yak because he actually caught the ball and then got yards after the catch. But he had two both tight ends. Kmet being the nearer guy, and then Colson a little deeper, but both going the same side. That might have been the only one that was designed. Obviously, there was pressure that pushed him out, and he rolled out. But that might have been the only one, and I'll have to go back and watch everything again and see. But that's the only one I can recall off the top of my head where it was a designed rollout play for sure.
Well, I get back to where I started here. That there haven't been a lot of Bears seasons where we've had this number of games where you just said, wow, they come down to things that happen late where everything is exciting and meaningful late in games. And I did not like the way they played overall today. I didn't. However, that each game is self-contained. All of these players, you can use the word momentum all you want, but everybody goes home and everybody's got a full week for next week to have everything is going to reset, with the exception of those guys that are going to take the field. I haven't looked at a Packers post-game injury report. And obviously that's going to be significant now if they got out of there in relative good health. Is everything okay with DJ Moore? Is he all right?
He was the next guy I was going to bring up. That's when I lost my train of thought. It was DJ Moore because he didn't look all right. And that interception where he just completely stopped running the route and allowed the Lions defender to just catch the ball without contesting the play whatsoever. He just stopped. I know he tweaked his ankle or he tweaked his knee at one point because then on the sideline, and then he walked off the sideline, was being looked at and talked to, and then came back like 2 or 3 plays later. He just didn't look like the DJ Moore we've seen the last few weeks, a guy that's got energy and effort and was there to play just didn't see it. So hopefully everything's okay. Maybe he was dealing with an illness we just don't know about that was going through the entire, Hatless Hall. But he did not look like himself today, unless you saw something different.
No, I didn't, and I just didn't understand on that play was he so certain a flag was going to be thrown, perhaps, that he just kind of broke it down?
I don't know. I don't know, because there was no pass interference of any kind. That was two guys going for a ball, and he gave up on the route, and he just didn't run the final few steps to even make. And even Brady made a comment about it, like, why wouldn't you just try to contest that ball and play defender at that point, which he didn't even do. He gave up on it.
Well, we are waiting to find out what the schedule is going to look like. One thing we do have is the list of Bears opponents for next season. And according to the tweet from Kevin Fishbainer, I think I saw this on Blue Sky before the game, the Bears' home opponents next year will be the Packers, Vikings, Lions, Jets, Patriots, Saints, Buccaneers, Eagles, and Jaguars. Their road schedule: Packers, Vikings, Lions, Bills, Dolphins, Falcons, Panthers, Seahawks.
Okay.
So it is always presumptuous to jump to any conclusions based on what we think about how good these teams will be next year.
Yeah.
However, that's a tough schedule. That's a tough schedule. I think the Saints are on track to being good.
You get nine home games, though, which is a plus. But yeah, Seahawks, Panthers, Falcons.
Yeah, again, outside the division, outside Packers, Vikings, Lions, Jets, Patriots, Saints, Buccaneers, Eagles, Jaguars. At home. Away, it's the Bills, the Dolphins, the Falcons, the Panthers, and the Seahawks.
So is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 playoff teams there? And
well, not
Packers.
Yeah, if you're talking
7. Yep.
Yeah, 7, right? If you're talking Packers, Patriots, Eagles, Jaguars, Bills, Panthers, Seahawks, and I want no piece of that Seahawks defense this year.
Yeah, holding the Niners to 3 points
and
Saturday night.
You talk about you want to see what you want your front four to look like.
Yeah, that's it.
How you want dudes, and sure, those edges on the Broncos are something, and speedy, and their get off time is insane. But man, the Seahawks play nasty.
Yeah.
And there's just not a whole lot of open space back there when they want to play zone. The Bears are going to have to figure out how to tighten up a zone defense. I think that's really their only shot. I think you got to play deeper than deep.
You can't play man. I mean, you do not have one corner that is a shutdown, one-on-one type corner. You just don't.
Not the way Jalen Johnson's playing right now.
No.
And I would like to know if they know something about his recovery, if they know something about, if they're seeing something different in practice. But if you didn't know that going into the season, this was their single individual best player, you certainly wouldn't know it now, because something's not right with him.
So it's the Bears' third loss this year in a one-score game. I think they end the season 8-3 in one-score games. It's also the first time they lost this year when allowing 24 points or less. They were previously undefeated going into this game when allowing 24 or less on the season. Jared Goff, in the 2 games that he played the Bears this year, Dan, he was 13 for 16, 242 yards with a touchdown on plays when the Bears blitzed. When the Bears blitzed, Jared Goff, 13 of 16, 242 with a touchdown. Well,
he's going to be that until you get him on the ground, or until there's anything in his face. Even a successful blitz, the only thing that really bothers him is stuff that's coming between the tackles, stuff that is impeding his field of vision and affecting him directly. That even if you run some of these wide, you start running the bubble around the outside and he's allowed to step up, that's not going to get it done. It's not.
And I just don't know how much tighter you can make your zone defense, because you're never going to bring Kevin Byard up closer. You're not going to, like, he's going to be deeper than he needs to be, because they're I mean, obviously they play a whole, bend, don't break, keep everything in front of you type defense, and it worked out. It worked out early on against the Lions in this game, where they gave up 2 field goals, and you're one play away from taking the lead at home when you looked like shit and you were being outplayed the first half of the game significantly. Time of possession and yards and number of plays. I'll go back through and look at number of plays and yards in first half the last 3 games, because it's just been absolutely terrible. And the fact that the Bears are 1-2, and then they finished the fourth quarter, the 5-game fourth quarter, 2-3. And then again, going into the playoffs on a 2-game losing streak. But there's nothing really different you can do with your zone, because you're not walking Byard up closer. You're not going to allow an opportunity for a guy like Jordan Love or whoever he might play beyond that to beat you deep, because they'll do that without a pass rush. So it's just a matter of keeping plays in front of you. The playbook is out there that if you can run crossing routes, get guys open in the middle and hit them in stride, they're going to run for yards against the Bears defense with a guy trailing behind them, because they just can't keep up and play.
If C.J. Gardner-Johnson is kept out of the game because of the concussion he suffered near the end of this one, Josh Blackwell is listed as the reserve nickelback. Jalen Jones came in his stead today, and I don't know if that was just a decision based on Blackwell's other responsibilities because of how important he is to all of their special teams units. And hell, he ran harder on the kickoff return than Devin Duvernay did.
Well, Jones is also very important on special teams, because he's a gunner. He's getting down there a lot of times first. So, it's going to be an interesting situation what you're going to do if GJ can't go.
And this would be a reason for the Packers to be out there in any offensive sets that are going to have a backup. Now you're down, you after Kyler Gordon, and now you lucked into C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and that's going to be another point of exposure if in fact they're going to have 3 wides as a base. So I would expect that.
It's premature to talk about next season, so I won't even go there. Just thinking about the defense. And
no, I was talking about next game.
Yeah, I know, and I'm thinking beyond that, because there's going to be some significant changes, absolute significant changes. There has to be with this, with not only the roster, maybe in coaching. Who knows? But this was a season where you're a top 5 offense, and you could not stop much of anything. And as the season went on, and I know there's injuries, but every team has injuries.
I'm not ready
to
start talking past tense about this season yet.
I know.
I think they can beat the Packers, and my gut feeling is that your first look ahead line tonight is going to have it a pick 'em, or the Bears a very, very slight or 1.5 point type favorite in that game.
Well, the early numbers I saw, Dan, before this weekend even came about, looking at the potential matchups for the Bears were getting points against all 3 opponents: the Packers, the Rams, and the Niners. I think they were getting 1.5 against the Packers going into this weekend as a potential matchup.
Okay. All right. Well, that surprises me a little bit, because the Packers don't concern me. I would not want to see San Francisco right now. I would not, just because of the Purdy can, without pressure, can just be a cool customer back there throwing darts to the guys that he can wait to come open.
Well, if they were to ever see the Niners here in the playoffs, maybe Dennis Allen watched the Seahawks game film and said, all right, we'll just do that. We'll do the same thing that they did. That would work really well. If the Bears were able to do that, that'd be great. Maybe put those guys in Bears jerseys and let them play, along with your new Russian friend that somehow got on the team today.
Nikola Kalinic. He sounds like a power forward. To be named Nikola and have a name that ends in IC means he missed his calling somewhere, being an NBA power forward.
Can he play hoops? I mean, maybe the Bulls could use him.
Yeah, they probably could. We hope Ozzie Trapillo is going to certainly be better for next week, because those inactives were Dunze, Trapillo, Tryon Shoyinka, Hippolyte, and McLeod. That's another name, because McLeod was sick. He would otherwise have been active. So it's possible that he could be used at nickel corner and might be better than whatever they might have replacing C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who struggled today. But I'm not going to get too down. The season lives. The Bears have proven that we can trust them to be competitive, even when it looks at its bleakest. To be down 16-0 heading into the fourth quarter and have my timelines filled with people suggesting, put in Bajent, take everybody out, just don't get anybody hurt at this point, just take the L. And this was tied, and I thought they were going to win. I swear to God, I did too. When they had the ball at their own 26, I thought they were going to win.
Yeah, because that's what they've done all year, and they get the interception, they get the play they needed, and then they just come out and they have a turd of a drive after that first drop by Luther Burden and then the grounding on second down. So I thought they were going to win, and then that drive just zapped it all away, and I just looked at the clock and was like, well, too much time. All they need is a field goal. And all you had to do was put together one drive in the first three quarters. I mean, give me one drive in the first three fucking quarters. I mean, they couldn't even do that. They weren't even active and alive, and there was no energy. There was lack of effort at times. All you had to do was come up with one drive in three quarters. But it's like they just love playing with their hair on fire. And, when everything is just urgent and that's when Caleb comes alive, it's like, dude, I don't know if he needs to play some like rec game before the game starts so that he's active and warmed up walking into the field. Because it's just, man, that's sleepy. Like, I need to get warmed up. My legs are under me. Shit, man, you can't have that for a playoff game. You can't walk into a playoff game and be like, yeah, I'll get warmed up in the second half. Because it's just not going to work that way. It's not going to happen that way, and I don't care who you're playing.
If somebody had told you going into this year, if someone had told you at the end of last year, even before Ben Johnson was hired, that in 2025, the Bears would enter the playoffs as the division champs in the North and the number 2 seed in the NFC. And then say, after that last game, that we would be disappointed. We would be talking about what the schedule looked like next year. We would be thinking about what changes still could be made to the defensive line or changes made to the defensive coaching staff before, and then say, well, that first playoff game would be against a Packers team that the Bears had recently defeated. It's pretty amazing. And I think that we should check the just this feeling of being allowed at this point to be as disappointed as we are. And Ben Johnson himself is setting the tone, but it's a hell of a place to be.
Yeah, because last year doesn't matter. And now it's all this year, and we should be disappointed and we should be angry because you won the division.
I'm not trying to shame you from being disappointed.
Oh no,
it's just amazing how quickly our perspective can change, and how almost absolutely our perspective can change based on what's happened the last few months.
Yeah, because each season is unique unto itself, just to itself. So it doesn't matter next year. It doesn't matter, last year. It's this year alone, and they won their division. Now, if I'd said to you going into the season, Dan, the Bears are going to start off 0-2. They're going to end the season 0-2. Mm-hmm. You would have never said their record would be 11-6. You would have never said, oh, sure, they'll go 11-2 in those middle 13. That didn't seem realistic. But that's what they did. And that's why it is frustrating and it is disappointing, because you have to take each season as it is. The Lions have been one of the top teams in the league the last 2 years, not in the playoffs this year. Commanders went to the NFC Championship game last year with a rookie quarterback, not in the playoffs this year. The Chiefs had an unbelievably terrible season and lose Patrick Mahomes before the season ends, not in the playoffs. I mean, that's just how it goes. The Dallas Cowboys were the top offense in the league, not in the playoffs, a team that lost to the Bears as well. You have to take each season and you have to go and put your, foot on the pedal all the way, man, because you just don't know. You don't know what happens next year. You've got to go after it this year. And it's frustrating to see a defense that is having a hard time stopping the run and does not get to the quarterback and hasn't gotten to the quarterback all season long.
So it appears the NFL will be making its announcement of the playoff schedule at some point during or after tonight's game between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. When we speak with you next on Forward Progress, we will have all of that information. We know the Bears are going to be taking on the Packers. We don't know in which slot they will, but we're going to know it when we join you next tomorrow. We have Dan Bernstein Unfiltered also that is going to be coming out tomorrow around 11 a.m. If this is your first time joining us here on Forward Progress, welcome. We're happy to have you here on 312 Sports. 312 Sports is Hubbard Broadcasting's Chicago Sports Podcast Network. And we are here doing this live as we do after every Bears game. We will continue to do that in the playoffs. But Forward Progress is going to be here Monday through Friday. Usually it drops around 1 o'clock. And we've been with you since August 25th. And we look forward to what we hope will be a long postseason run for the Chicago Bears, but it's going to be a hell of a Packers week. If you want to break out your cheese grater hats and wear them to work for one more, you certainly have our permission to do that.
Forward progress has stopped. 10, 219, 219.
Forward Progress, a Chicago Bears podcast with Dan Bernstein and Matt Abatacola on 312 Sports.